Okay, I guess we're on. I just got the high sign. Hello, everybody out there in Cyberland. Hello, everybody here. Thank you for coming out on a really daunting, hot day. I'm continuing along in the kind of series of talks that I've been giving. The last one was about Guru Yoga. And before that, we talked about bodhicitta, and before that, refuge, and before that, contemplating the four thoughts. And my whole idea is like to encourage daily practice and to make it meaningful and rich. And I think that's the most important thing. It's the best thing I'm capable of doing. Since I'm not an enlightened being or anything like that, I'm just filling in for them right here. So today, we're getting into something that's people seem to have difficulties with, because it's a strange concept, I think, called the kayas. We're talking about the kayas all the time. The kaya being body of the Buddha, and we say like it depends on the text you're reading. There could be 2, there could be 3, there could be 4, there could be 5. Haven't seen 6 yet, but I'm not a scholar, so who knows? It's probably out there somewhere. My hope is that I can give you some just analogies to help understand what the kayas are referring to. Because really what they're referring to is a reality that you're already experiencing in the present moment, and an experience within your practice. And the whole idea behind even having that concept in our Dharma path is it just can help us understand what we're doing so that we can achieve realization ourselves, so that our experience can be richer. In Buddhism, probably one of the principal differences between Buddhism and other religions is Buddhism teaches that you already have what you seek. It's not a matter of doing things in a certain way or saying something just perfectly or being good all the time and never being bad, and then you'll get a reward and all that kind of thing. It's not like that. What the Buddha taught is it's already there. The problem is something I referred to in the very first teaching in this series. We have puppy dog minds. They're not happy. They're running around doing whatever they want. We think it's okay because that's me. Like a puppy dog doesn't know what to do unless we train it. Otherwise, he'll just make a mess in your house, eat the furniture, leave little gifts for you on the carpet and so forth. You're not happy when that happens. Heaven knows furniture's expensive and carpet cleaning is not easy. However, puppies can be trained, and when they're trained, they actually become happier. And when they're trained, we become happier, and there's this beautiful thing that happens where we fall in love with each other. And it's a wonderful thing to have a dog that loves you and to love a dog. There's no doubt about it. Well, the same is true with our minds. Interesting, right? So this whole idea of practicing in a really rich way, not a rote way, is kind of like acknowledging that this is a living thing that we're doing here. Not just some kind of magic, if we get it just right, we'll feel better. That's not what this is. It's up to us. So I'm going to give, what I hope to do today is I hope to give a brief description. We won't go into a lot of depth. You can get all kinds of scholarly stuff, all kinds of books that have all kinds of many, many, many words and pages about this subject. And if you're interested, I encourage you to look it up. Rather, I want to give you some simple kind of analogies. I also want to refer back to the guru yoga practice I talked about last month and elaborate a little bit on the empowerment, self-empowerment part of that practice, because within that is kind of the key to understanding what is meant by kayas. So I'm hoping to talk a little bit and then to lead just a brief meditation where I kind of give an approach to doing that kind of practice that can help you directly experience this notion of kayas for yourself, so that you're not walking around necessarily with knowledge where you can pass a multiple choice test about it, like it's this and not that, and that's for something else. But more like a working knowledge, so that when something happens to you and gets your attention later today or tomorrow or whenever, you'll be able to understand it a little better, and having meditated on it, whenever you experience that, you engage in something in life, good, bad, or indifferent, you'll start to see your own Buddha nature, the qualities of your own Buddha nature, even surprising you. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? That was pretty wonderful. Because ultimately, we only have the present moment. We engage ourselves all the time with judgments and labels that have to do with past experience or future hopes. And, the truth is, that's fine. And some people will say, you can't have that. Oh, no, it's only present. Nah, that's not true. We all remember stuff, and thank goodness we do. And we all have aspirations for the future, and thank goodness we do. But the ultimate truth is only ever in the present moment. That's the only place it can ever be. So this is about bringing that together in a way that creates the conditions for happiness, for peace, for love, for joy, the things that we really actually long and hunger for. In the Buddha Dharma, it's taught that things only arise with causes and conditions. In this discussion, the cause is already there. You have Buddha nature. That's the cause. You already have the cause. And once you catch a spark, the notion that it's in there, then it's up to us to create the conditions for that to become apparent. That's what realization is. We realize it directly, that Buddha nature is literally the core of our being. So that's where we're going. And we do these practices in order to help, this is the way I think of it, help our minds understand what our potentials are, what's possible. That's what we're doing. And once we know something's possible and we start to get some skill with those possibilities, we can start to create these conditions within which realization can happen. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, the founder of the center and my teacher, used to say, you know, enlightenment happens like in an instant, like overnight, except that you have to create the conditions before it happens that way. So we're in this period of the trajectory, the path of our lifetimes, where we're creating the conditions for this moment, this transformative moment that we call enlightenment. That's what Buddha taught. That's what Buddha did when he left his kind of cushy existence to go out and seek this truth of perfect freedom from suffering and perfect freedom to create goodness in the world. So Rinpoche used to say, yeah, one day you'll come in to an interview with me or to practice at the center, and you'll sit down an ordinary person and you'll stand up from your cushion an enlightened being. That's the way it is. It's a little like, you know, what was it? Was it Arturo Rubinstein? Somebody asked him how you get to Carnegie Hall, and the first thing he said, you take a taxi. But then he said, no, you just practice, 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 right? So I want to emphasize that and start with that. I may not get to some of the material about this that I want to today, and I'll do part 2 next month if that's the case. Meanwhile, I'll just kind of introduce some ideas. We'll do this practice together. Maybe there'll be a few more ideas, but I want to leave room for questions and answers because the kayas are things that people ask about. Stay tuned, because after we're done with that, we'll move on to the next subject that fits with this path of learning, which is the 5 Buddhas, the 5 Buddha families. That's another one. You know, we're so used to thinking of, you know, just having this unitary deity that is the crown of spirituality. Well, the Buddhist approach is different than that. So a lot of Western people, because we're raised in this culture, have a hard time getting to that. So now we're going to do the kayas. And coming out of that, it naturally feeds into Buddhist, what was actually Buddhist psychology. So, and one of the ways that psychology is presented is through these 5 Buddha families. So that's where I'm trying to go. And after that, we'll see where we go. But before we get into all that, let's start in the way that we always start, with the refuge prayer. Let's chant it 2 times in Tibetan, and then just recite it the 3rd time in English. Sunje chudang soki chok nam la, chang chu pardu dagni kyab suchi, daki jin soki pe sonam ki, drola penshir sanje drupar sho. Sanje chudang soki chok nam la, chang chu pardu dakni kyab suchi, daki jin so yi pe sonam ki, drola pinshir sanje druparsho. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. Well, actually, that refuge prayer, I'm going to crack that open for you in this talk along with it, because guess what? The kayas are there. We don't have that word in there, but I'll show you how it is. And that's sort of the object of my talk right here, is to encourage you to pick a practice that you're attracted to, that you like, that you enjoy when you do, and then have some insight into how it's training. By doing the practice, it's training your puppy dog mind. Because when you get that idea, you'll actually have some enthusiasm and excitement for practice. Sometimes it's a little bit hard because it feels like it's just a discipline. It's just something that we're doing, we're working hard on. Well, it can be a lot richer than that, a lot richer. So has everybody here heard of the kayas before? Yeah? Who thinks they know what they are, what it is? What does that mean? Yeah, I guess that's my job. Just call me Dictionary Llama. No, I'm not doing that. However, first point about that, this is like my own personal little prayer book in here. It's got practices in it. And, you know, that word, kaya, that's all over the place in there. There are kayas and a lot of dharmakaya. Oh my, we talk about dharmakaya all the time. I want to encourage you to not go too fast when you practice. To do your practice in English until it's memorized anyway. Then if you want to chant it with a tune in Tibetan, great. But at least you'll know what you're doing with your mind while you're singing this song in a foreign language, okay? I believe singing songs is really very healing and helpful, and I love it. And when we're doing group practice, it helps that everybody's together, singing in the same language with the same tune, the same rhythm. But when you're on your cushion at home, the critical thing is, for your understanding and your growth, this is for you to uncover your own sacred nature, your own sacred truth, okay? That's what it's for. So if you come across a word in a practice and it's a little confusing, stop. Take out a Dharma book with a glossary or something like that and look it up so that you really know, because all these practices, in my opinion, are pretty wonderful. And they're built in such a way that if you understand what you're doing and you go through step by step, it's putting this puppy dog brain up here through certain experiences to train it so that a door will open. And you can walk through it to another level. They're like triggers in these things that help our minds realize, this is what I was saying before, what our potential is. I can remember coming out of high school. I didn't know what all the possibilities were for me in my life, for my work and my relationships or anything. And nobody was telling me either. And it sucks. You know, I might have grown up to do something different. I didn't even know what the possibilities are. What the Dharma's doing here is telling you the truth about yourself, if you let it, which means you have to understand it. So do your practice as a contemplation. Really think deeply, consider deeply what's going on here. So, one analogy for the three kayas is Dharmakaya is like the sun. Sambhogakaya is like the rays of the sun. And Nirmanakaya is like the rays hitting objects on the earth. The Nirmanakaya is your physical situation. The Nirmanakaya of the historical Buddha was Shakyamuni, okay? That's what that means. The Sambhogakaya and the Dharmakaya are at the level of mind. For my purposes, I want to adjust that a little bit. And you can do this while you're contemplating these things. This is about discovery. I kind of think of the Dharmakaya as being like space, limitlessly open, accommodating and containing everything. Literally the truth of presence. I mean, if there was no space, we couldn't be in this room, right? Space is like the ultimate, this open, unbounded space is like an ultimate truth. And Dharmakaya literally means truth body, so I like that. I agree, I like the idea of calling the Sambhogakaya like the rays or the light in space. It's really fascinating. Space is shot through with light, right? Look here. Look at that space. Well, what's going on there? Well, there's openness. It can accommodate this room. Our butts are literally on the earth, and our bodies extend up from the earth literally into this vast openness. That's where we are. And the light is there, obviously, but we can't see it. I mean, they're mixed inseparably, right? However, the quality of the light really impacts our experience that we have in this space, okay? That's the Sambhogakaya. Sambhogakaya, loosely translated, means enjoyment body, okay? So it's the qualities of the space that you're in. So the enjoyment body of the Buddhas are represented, it's like the Nirmanakaya is represented like a human, okay? However, technically, if you needed a dog to be your Nirmanakaya, Buddha might show up as a dog. And this is true, or whatever. And Dharmakaya is this openness within which this all arises. It's beyond description, literally. If you could describe it, it wouldn't be Dharmakaya. So that's why they call it the truth body. It's just this thing that's just the truth of limitless openness, that the universe can accommodate anything. The Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, is represented by these funny-looking guys up here, like 1,000 arms over there, 11 heads. I happen to like that practice a lot, by the way. And they represent different practices and stuff. Why like that? Well, think about this. If Sambhogakaya really represents the qualities, okay, of enlightened mind, wow, there are a lot of facets to that jewel, right? There's a lot of incredible qualities of enlightened mind. So we get these different representations in order to help us contemplate many qualities of enlightened mind. That's what's going on. So when you're doing your 1,000-arm Chenrezig practice, or your 4-arm Chenrezig practice, or your Tara practice, or Guru Rinpoche, whatever, it's not just that kind of being that you project whatever you think that is onto, but it's also qualities. And it's also the conditions and the space within which those qualities can arise. And obviously, they all rise together at one time. So that's the fourth kaya, is the fact that these three things, the actual physical presence, the qualities, and then the energies, the open space full of light, the energies running through it is the Dharmakaya, all right? And the fact is, they don't come as separate things. We contemplate them separately so that we can see what our own potential is. Just like when you're learning a musical instrument, you run a lot of scales, and you never, when you sit down to play a piece of music, you're not running scales, even though that's what you practiced. You need to be able to see what the possibilities of notes are in order to make music. Same thing with our minds. So that's why the great masters have broken these things down. And they're broken down in the texts that we study. They're also broken down in the practices that we do, even though that's not necessarily always explicitly taught that way. It's helped me personally a lot to think of them that way. So you're stuck this morning with what's helped me a lot. I'm hoping it'll help you too. So I want to say just one more thing before we do this meditation practice. This is the pedantic part. This is from a talk Trungpa Rinpoche gave in 1971. He said, most basically, the term Nirmanakaya refers to the actual physical and mental manifestation of Shakyamuni Buddha, as well as other enlightened individuals. Nirmana is usually translated as manifestation, something that appears, something that you can see, or incarnation. It's the idea that one has taken rebirth many times, died and been reborn over and over again, and that this current birth, this nirmana, or current manifestation, is what we are. The Tibetan word for this term is tolku, which is another one that you might have heard. Tolku means the same thing as nirmana. It's a rebirth, somebody who's returned. So the Dalai Lama is the 14th Tolku, or Nirmanakaya, in his line, and the Karmapa is the 17th in his line. In one sense, we're all Nirmanakayas, because we all have been reborn many times. However, the term is usually reserved for enlightened teachers who take rebirth deliberately, out of compassion, because they've taken a vow to work for the benefit of confused sentient beings like us until there are no more left. This is going to take a while. The rest of us, unenlightened individuals, take rebirth not deliberately, but out of the force of our karma, habit, and desire that drive us forward in life and in death to continual and uncontrolled rebirth in various realms of suffering. We're fortunate to be human beings this time around, folks, because the human realm offers us the easiest set of circumstances to traverse the path to enlightenment and freedom. But we may not be so fortunate in future lives. Sooner or later, we will be reborn in all the realms: God realms, animal, hungry ghost, hell realms. In fact, we'll experience this psychologically, even during the course of any given day of our life, where we experience anger and panic of the hell realms, the pride and pleasure of the God realms, the hunger and sense of deprivation of the hungry ghost realms, or the stupidity, sloth, and fear of the animal realms. Those are Trungpa's words. I don't call animals stupid myself, but yeah. So dharma is the Sanskrit word. It's got a lot of meanings, but the original meaning when it first came to be used during the time of Shakyamuni, or even before, it's a Sanskrit word that goes back a long way, just simply means truth. And so the Dharmakaya is the truth body. So it refers to your Buddha nature, your limitless, unbounded, unimpeded, luminous being. That's who you are. So I'm telling you something that I wish somebody would have told me when I was much younger, that you have the potential to be a Buddha, okay? That's the important thing. Sambhogakaya appeared later, actually. It's a newer word. Originally, in the original sutras, there was just Dharmakaya and Nirmanakaya. Then, as people contemplated the relationship between the two, they started to think, there's something that connects a confused nirmana to a nirmanakaya that manifests or realizes its dharmakaya, and that's the Sambhogakaya. So here's how that goes. In this practice here, the refuge practice, just 4 lines, we say, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment. Okay. Well, Buddha is a recognition that you have all the equipment that one had. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin to feel things with, stuff in you that is both physical and non-physical, all of that. He had all that. You have all that. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, it's in this historical person who, out of compassion in the particular lifetime he was in, managed to show us the truth in a systematic way that we could get and maybe get on that path ourselves if we so chose, if we were motivated for that, if we aspire to enlightenment, okay? That's Buddha. Your physical body with the skin and the hair and all the stuff, and inside of you, the energies and the channels and all that kind of stuff, your subtle body, there's all your chakras, all the stuff, whatever. That has the potential for not just being a nirmana, but a nirmanakaya, okay? So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we're taking, we're coming in out of the rain of confusion and taking refuge in the truth, yes. But we're also, the truth is we've got the same equipment that one does. It's important to affirm that in yourself, to know who you are and what your potential is. That's what it is. The Dharma. Well, the Dharma in this case, we're talking about the teachings, okay? And what are the teachings? Well, ultimately, if you follow the teachings, if you do any of the practices, or if you say shamatha, or do tonglen, or I encourage you to do both, but, or even if you move along the path far enough to where you can do, you achieve shamatha and you can do some insight meditation and some Mahamudra meditation. Great. The Dharma is all of that, and we need to cultivate certain qualities in order to have the conditions for that level of experience to unfold in this limitless space. There's no problem. The space we have for this is limitless. And so what are those qualities? Well, they're nicely summarized as the 6 perfections, and it's simple. So we find that what the Dharma is saying, we can actually actively cultivate generosity, right? Ethics, patience, joyful diligence, meditative absorption, or just mindfulness, moment to moment, and wisdom. Those are the 6 perfections, okay? And so when we take refuge in the Dharma, what we're saying is, when these qualities become the sunlight of the sky of my mind, because that's what we're talking about here, Sambhogakaya, light in space. That's the sunlight of your mind, or those 6 qualities. So we have specific practices that Buddha taught, the masters have developed and taught over the years to help us develop those qualities. Once again, it's up to us, okay? And built into these practices, we have, in a simple practice like refuge, the reminder that we have this potential, that we can do this, develop this. And then, in the assembly most excellent, which is traditionally refers to what's called the enlightened Sangha, or the Arya Sangha. And it also refers to the Dharmakaya, because the Dharmakaya accommodates every kind of light. And it's about interdependence. It's like all the enlightened Sangha arises with causes and conditions. It arises interdependently with the potential, Nirmanakaya, the atmosphere within those potentials, the Sambhogakaya. The Dharmakaya kind of is the space within which all of that arises. And the representation of that for us isn't just going out at night and looking up on a clear night and seeing all the stars and the infinite just openness. It's beyond that. It's beyond that. It's interdependence. And that's what the Buddha taught. Usually, what we're doing most of the time is we're doing what they call reifying, or we're just repeating to ourselves with every experience. I'm me, I'm ruggedly independent, and you're you, and we get in this whole dualistic thing of there's me, and then there's my experience. There's me, and this is who I love, and this is who I hate. I don't really hate you. That's not true. Anyway, and what this is saying is all of that arises together, and it's interdependent. It's interdependent. That's really important. When we talk about emptiness, what we're really empty of in emptiness is this sense of aloneness. We create that in ourselves. We create that in ourselves. That's important to know. We could also create in ourselves generosity and ethics and patience and joy and mindfulness and wisdom. It's our choice. But our default settings are to create loneliness, okay? And practice is about undoing that and becoming open to this interdependence and these enlightened qualities because they're already there. We start out with a challenge. We're born. That's it. We're born. That's a big challenge. It's hard to get born. First thing that happens is you're coming out of a really wonderful, comfortable place, and you go into this place that is just horrible. Even when they're trying to make it nice, if it's not an operating room and you're in a warm bathtub or something, that's fine. It's still horrible. You're leaving, this womb experience, and the lights are bright, even if they're dim, because you haven't ever seen lights before. And the air feels different. You never felt air before, and you're hungry. You've never been hungry before, and you're going to cry like crazy. And then if you don't cry, they spank you so you do. This is hard. And you realize that I am suffering, and these people are making me do it. And that's the first mind training that we go through, and everybody goes through it. And it's just that moment. However, we hold on to it because it's an imprint in our experience and in our mind, okay? And to a degree, you don't, that is what happened. You don't just say that didn't happen. However, you don't have to cultivate the qualities of anger and fear and sadness and loneliness. That's up to you. That's what you do with that experience. Same thing here, okay? So, obviously the refuge prayer goes on by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. They're referring to those 6 perfections, okay? What it's saying is, I'm going to cultivate these 6 perfections because by doing that, by the goodness of that, you could use a different word than merit. Merit's weird. It's probably not the best translation, actually, but it's an early one that stuck, so we got it. But it's really goodness. It's really virtue. We can cultivate the virtues and the goodness of the 6 perfections. Yeah, we had this fearful, really scary experience of getting born, but we don't have to, build our whole lives and philosophy around that. Not at all. Buddha's saying, build it around the truth, the Dharmakaya, the truth body, the openness, the interdependence, shot through with the light of these qualities, and let it populate your Nirmanakaya, the presence right here in this very moment. That's how the kayas operate. They all come together. So, what I like to do is I look at this very basic, guru yoga, And obviously, the truth is, I haven't realized any of this yet. I'm still an unenlightened being. I need some help. So in Guru Yoga, the first thing we do is we supplicate the masters. I happen to believe that even if you can't see him, if I call on Guru Rinpoche, he appears. If I call on Tara, she appears. If I call on Chenrezi, especially Thousand Arm, they appear. I'm using all the pronouns. Anyway, I didn't mean to segue quite like that. But the point is, it's all there and we can call on them. So usually Guru Yoga will just start with a supplication. They all have some prayer in the book that you can use. However, if you're so inclined and you have even the words to express it, come right from your heart, right where you're at today, and just say, Rinpoche, I don't know what to do. I'm confused. This happened today. I don't know what to do. Please help. And then after this supplication, there's this period of just mantra recitation. Now, what's that for? Well, these mantras have energies and powers of their own, and they just help our minds calm down. They're like a cognitive centering device. They can be like Shine. As disparate thoughts come up, you can let go of them and return to the mantra. Just like if you're doing Shine and thoughts arise, it's not a problem. You just let them go and you return to the breath. Because literally, when those thoughts are coming from our normal habits and propensities that we've been cultivating since birth, and so they're habits of, running after things we think we enjoy, or running away from things we think we don't enjoy, or, just being indifferent because we can't stand any more of anything. Okay, well, that's one mental condition. But if we're just doing mantra and our desires arise, we can let go of them and return to the mantra. And this starts training the puppy dog that he doesn't have to have what he thinks he has to have, or he doesn't have to get away from this thing he thinks he has to get away from. It's like that. So we're doing the mantra and we're getting calmed down, and we're also receiving a blessing. And then we ask for empowerment. Once we're calmed down and we feel like through the mantra we've gained some kind of rhythm and harmony with this enlightened being that we're supplicating. And we take the empowerments. Now, if you remember from the last time, the first empowerment is white light comes from the guru's head into yours. This is a body blessing. It purifies and heals all the things in your body that could need purification or healing. Also, though, it's just a reminder, hey, buddy, Eric, you have all the equipment that one has. So sit like that. Appreciate that. And then there's this red light that comes from the throat of the guru and enters our throat and fills us with this extraordinary red light. So we have this vessel and then this light. And it's called the blessing of speech. All right. Well, what do we use speech for? What am I using it for right now? You should always ask a lot of questions, even real simple ones, really, when you're practicing. What is speech? What? I don't talk pretty enough? What? No, it's not that. We use speech to communicate with each other. We use speech to communicate with ourselves, the self-talk thing, all of that. And so then when you take the empowerment of enlightened speech, you remind yourself, and I do this explicitly. When I do the refuge prayer by myself, I never say, by the merit of generosity and all the other stuff. I explicitly named them all because it's a way of reminding myself what qualities I'm engendering in the space of this present moment and what qualities I'll have the habit of having arise when the chips are down and something really kind of surprising happens during the day. That's the point, is how does this manifest in the present moment? So when I'm on the cushion, I'm training the puppy dog to simply engender that atmosphere all the time. So that's the condition from which I'm responding to my life in, okay? So you take the red light empowerment to your throat and you think that you're being flooded with the light of generosity. You're being flooded with the light of ethics and of patience and of joy. I like that one, of course. And of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a superpower. Good to cultivate that. And a wisdom, which sees the connection of everything. That's what wisdom is. Wisdom is kindness. Why kindness? Well, because if you're connected to it, you don't want to be mean to it, you want to be kind to it. It's like I look at Jelaine and she's myself. You know? She's my arms. She's my arms that created this beautiful shrine here. That's the point. And so if you meditate like that every morning, you've created an atmosphere in this nirvana that is full of enlightened qualities. And then we take the blue empowerment, comes from the heart to the heart. And it's the openness of space, literally heart flying open and becoming the nature of a clear sky on a sunny day. That kind of thing, that kind of energy. And one of the things about the wisdom empowerment is, and this is me talking now, by the way, I'm not being authoritative, but this is what my experience is that it's most powerful when I appreciate the elemental energies that arise in this open space. So what's that like? Thich Nhat Hanh's really good at this. He doesn't say this explicitly, but I'm interpolating. I have the solidity and the stability of earth. I have the humility and the power of water. I have the warmth and brightness in this openness of fire. I have the ability to benefit all beings like air and the openness of space. That's the mind empowerment. So you've got the framework, and then you got the qualities, and then you got the energy that's flowing through it that's limitless, literally limitless. And that's the mind empowerment. Then there's the fourth empowerment. And all the lights come at once, and they hit you again because there's still habits and propensities that you've developed since birth that get in your way. So, like, this morning, we were trying to water our garden because it's been so hot and we don't want stuff to die. And there were a couple sprinklers going, and I went to flush the toilet and the water pressure was too low and the toilet wouldn't flush. This is before I got on the cushion to prepare to come here and do this, right? crazy, right? It's one of those things where you go nuts. So you're not flushed, and you got to think about, am I calling a plumber? What am I doing? Why is this happening and all that? And, well, when I realized that I can't do anything about this in the minute, which is true, I know what to do. I know how to fix toilets, okay? I'm an old man. I've done this, had a few toilets in my day. And I can drop it with the confidence that I'll get to it and I'll fix it when I have the opportunity. But right now, I need to come prepare for what I'm about to do with my friends at Columbus KTC. And I don't have to be anxious or worried or perseverate or think about this all the time. Not at all. Not at all. I can just move along, and then when I get to it, I'll be able to get to it in a sense of peace. And probably with some insight, I might choose the right method of repairing this thing and all that. That comes from having a mental habit that has not worried. However, there are all those other habits of worry and anxiety and all the other things. So that fourth empowerment is just saying, all those reactions, all those, kind of hardwired reactions since birth, we're going to cleanse those and relax those and free you from those, because it's your preferences. That's where your preferences are. I like this, I don't like that. They become the obstacles and the obscurations for all this other good stuff that you've done, this enlightened atmosphere, this enlightened presence, and all that kind of thing, all right? So, my phone, somebody is trying to say something. We'll find out about that later, too. So, that fourth empowerment is about getting to this root reactive layer so that when you go out in your life, all right, and something happens, good, bad, or indifferent, you can respond to it with these enlightened, out of this enlightened atmosphere in your mind. You're likely to respond with love and kindness, compassion, wisdom. That's what we're training for. That's why we do the practice, because we are potentially Buddha. That's it, okay? So my hope is that I can encourage you to practice and slow it down a little bit and really, really contemplate what's going on in these practices. I have to end there. I want to leave a couple minutes for Q&A. And there is some more material. This is pretty rich territory. And we'll get to the rest of it next time. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you being here. I know it's not an easy day to be out. Thank goodness it's air conditioned here. So, I'm putting you on the spot. Who's got a question about the kayas? Anything? Oh, maybe not. Well, I'll tell you this last thing. If you take a moment in the morning, you don't even have to necessarily get out of bed to do it. You can just sit up in bed and mentally take refuge with mindfulness, not just out of rote. And you supplicate out of your heart and do this very simple guru yoga where you take the empowerments and you do that consistently. It doesn't take long, by the way. If you do it consistent, like every day, You could do it even multiple times in a day. I'll bet you'll like your life better within some period of time. That's what I'm willing to bet. Because the puppy's gonna be happier, and you'll be definitely on the road to becoming who you actually are. So, anyway.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Dave.
You're such a good puppy, I'm gonna throw you a bone.
Oh, thank you.
1, how do you spell Kaya?
Well, it's, a Sanskrit word, and I don't know, but Kaya.
Thank you. And what is the English word that goes with it?
Body. Akaya is a body. So, and that's where this is a good question, really, because that's where people get confused. They say, the Buddha has 3 bodies? And it's like, no. No, Buddha didn't have 3 bodies. You're not going to have 3 bodies, not all at once. Or actually, they do, it's all at once, but you know what I'm saying. You're not triplets. So it means body, but they're talking about this in the sense that your physical manifestation is one body. The atmosphere or the way your feeling tone is another body. And then there's this subtle body that like is the sky with all this energy in it is considered another body, and they all appear at once. That's how they appear. There is something here that's, I think, pretty well said. Yeah. It says, finally and always, the 3 kayas are merely different aspects of the same thing, which is Buddha, okay? Which is what is meant in the text. We find the assertion that 3 kayas are one. The Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya, often lumped together, are called the Rupakaya, or form body, which are in union with the Dharmakaya, the absolute body, this limitless openness, from which, in the present moment, here and now, everything arises and passes away. So there's more to follow on that next time, because it's important. I think the deeper we can understand these things and contemplate them, the richer our practice becomes. And the richer our practice becomes, the more joy we'll have in it. That's where joyful diligence comes from. And ultimately, we'll wake up.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, David.
I just want to, about myself, I'm very simple, so I asked for one English word, and you gave me so many others.
Yeah, I'm a talker.
I am. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So let's take a moment and dedicate the merit of this. That's another training for our minds, is recognizing that we create virtue and goodness all the time. And because of interdependence, we literally can share it, and when we do, goodness happens. So we'll just say it in the traditional dedication in English. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Thanks, everybody.